Hello and welcome back to my channel. Let's go ahead and talk some books. So normally I would be going over the books that I finished, but I don't think I've finished anything since the last time I updated you guys. And if I have, your guess is as good as mine as to what it was, but I'm pretty sure I haven't. So I'm going to jump straight into what I'm currently reading. So the first book I'm going to discuss is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. And this is a book that I am reading for my Huck v. James read-along, or is it even a read along? It's more like a discussion. And you can find out more information about that down in the description box. But basically, I just started a read along on Storygraph and also on my Discord where there's just space for us to discuss our thoughts on this book. And eventually our thoughts on James. And then sometime in December, I'm somehow maybe going to create a way for us to discuss it live, to be continued. For now, you can find in the description box information on how to connect to the Storygraph read along I am doing of this book. There will eventually be one for James in September. And in my Discord, which you will also find linked below, you can find out information on where to go to connect and talk about this whenever and say whatever your thoughts are. So I am a good chunk of the way into this book. I am on page 96 out of like 260 or something like that. All 96 of those pages I basically read on the first day I picked this up, which was this past Monday during my reading sprints. And I have a lot of thoughts on this book. And I'm not going to go into a lot of them here because I'm going into more of them on the Discord and in the Storygraph. So I don't want to be repeating myself in like 3 different places. But my basic thoughts are, one, I can see how somebody could potentially read this book solely as an adventure story. You are following Huckleberry Finn and sort of the mischief and adventures he gets up to. He is a very fascinating narrator. However, I can also see how a lot of people have problems with this book in terms of there's very casual usage of the N word in here. And that can sometimes just really trigger a negative response in people, understandably so. So I would put that as a content warning. Like if you cannot handle people just casually mentioning that word and the author really not addressing why they may be doing that in any sort of manner, but just continuing it on as part of their speech, then this may not be the book for you. Why you may want to read this book, however, is because there is a deeper message going on other than just the language that is being used in this book. This is a satire in a lot of ways of this time period, so that's important to keep in mind that he is trying to make social commentary, and by him and he, I mean Mark Twain, is trying to make some social commentary about how the sort of classic American was at that time, or at least some of them. And so that does need to be taken into consideration. I would say if you are really concerned about some of the aspects that are involved in this book, because there are racist people in this book. There's no doubt about that. I would highly recommend getting an edition of this book that has an introduction and reading the entire introduction, because I do think it's a book that is important to read in context. Now, whether or not I'm ultimately going to like the book, I don't know. I think it's going to heavily depend on how it ends. So far, I'm very fascinated, particularly by the parallels that exist within this book between Huck Finn and his journey and his adventure and that of James, who is the runaway slave in this book. So, yeah, I am in the midst of this. It's going well. And yeah, I'm going to continue to have a lot of thoughts on this. And hopefully, I'll wrap up some of them at the end of this month. But I plan on reading more of this and finishing this. Not necessarily in my next reading sprint, but I will definitely be reading it during that on Monday. But I'll probably pick it up at some other point in between now and then, or after then, or it'll be done before the end of the month. That's what I'm trying to say. The next book that I am in the middle of reading is Oblomov by Ivan Goncharov. There's the name for you. And I am really enjoying this book a lot more than I even thought I would. So, what is this story about? It is about the titular character, Oblomov, and just his life and his life of lying on his couch. He is a very relaxed, I feel like that's such an understatement, kind of guy who just wants to float through life and really wishes people would leave him alone and stop trying to bring reality into his dreaming and thinking. So he is a daydreamer, he is a thinker about his daydreams, and Yeah, he just misses his life. This is a satire about, I believe I really need to look that up, 18th century, I believe, Russian aristocracy that at the time this is set is basically dying out. And the author is definitely trying to show you what the problems are with the aristocracy at that time period, why it's just not working. And yeah, you're kind of seeing Oblomov at the fading of that time of glory, if you will. Though this book definitely makes you question whether it's glorious. This is definitely a book that is going to make you feel like the laziest person around as you sit and read it, which is kind of ironic. But it's actually very deep. Like, in addition to just flat out talking about how lazy he is, the author is really addressing questions of an existential nature. Like, what is the purpose and meaning of life, especially as a human being? Like, what makes a man or humanity good and life worth living? And yeah, so there's lots of discussion about like who's the man, right? Like who's the real man here. And yeah, it's sort of a patriarchal like perspective. So, but ultimately they're talking about humanity as a whole. And where does this way of life that's just given over to luxury and laziness, like where did that come from during that time period? And what are the consequences of living life to the utmost ease? So I love all the themes being discussed in this book. I just finished this lovely section where Oblomov dreams of the most wonderful place in the world. You're not actually supposed to like the place that he's dreaming about, but I could see the appeal, namely because it's a place in which exist no nightingales. And if you know, you know. I should mention that that book, I mentioned that I was reading it in, I think it was Nell Diamond's Reading Sprints. And she mentioned that it reminded her a lot of this book, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. And so that really intrigued me. I've seen this book go around quite a bit to mixed reviews, I feel like, at this point. And I haven't read the back of this book, but I have heard some of what it's about. And I agree with her. I think there are potentially some serious overlaps, but of course, some differences. So I did go ahead and pick this up. So, sneak peek at an upcoming book haul. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to this hopefully sooner than later because I really would want to see like what are the crossovers, what are the similarities here, and I'm interested to know whether or not that was intentional on this author's part. So, in addition to Oblomov and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, I do have my two ongoing reads. I am still in the middle of The Mysteries of Paris with Stormy. We are making some great progress on it. We are reading book 6 this month. I think that's the book that we're in. Yeah, let's go with that. And that puts us right now, I am on page 865. I have the last chapter that I need to read in it for this month, and then I will be set. So you will definitely be hearing my wrap up on that book. Whether or not Oblomov will be finished by the end of August, I hope so. I think so. That's definitely my goal. And then I am still listening daily to The Year of Wonder. And if you're interested in listening along to this classical musical piece each day, you can follow me again on Discord. I have a little server that I've created in there where we are just once a week discussing all our thoughts on the different songs in here. Unless it's this week, in which case there was one piece that I just couldn't wait till the end of the week. I had to comment on immediately. Yeah, I still feel scarred. I'm now going to go into what my plans are for the rest of the month. And I'm looking at this little stack of books here and I'm thinking, Nicole, this is a stack of books that you would need a couple of weeks to finish. And there's only 1 week left in this month. Wish me luck. Here we go. So for the Bookworm Club, which now I'm realizing, I think the discussion is on August 27th, 29th. It's really soon. I need to read this book. Anyway, they're discussing Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. I have never read this. I'm very fascinated. Gives me some Charles Dickens Gothic vibes. So we'll see how I end up liking this. This will also be my first Neil Gaiman. So we'll see how that goes and if I get it done in time. And I will put in the description box below a link to their book club announcement if you want to see exactly when that book club discussion is going to be and what the other books are that they're reading. And then that gets me into the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. I am participating in that. And again, there will be a link to the announcement video for that in the description box below. But I did spin a spinner wheel that gave me 2 prompts off that bingo board that I'm going to try and fulfill that month. And one of them that I'm going to do, in fact, I don't remember what one of the prompts was that I was supposed to be working on. That's probably a problem. I'll put it up on the screen so at least you'll know what I'm forgetting. And when I go to edit this video, then I will also know what I'm forgetting. Currently, I know one of the prompts that I'm supposed to be working on is to read 500 pages in one day. And so the book that I had chosen for me for that is XX by Rian Hughes, or 20. Again, I still need to figure out which one it's supposed to be, if either. And I have not started this yet, really. Like, I was going to, I kind of did, and I had no idea what I was reading, not because of the writing. I picked it up on a day I was super tired, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. So I am looking forward to this book. I've wanted to read it for quite a while. Am I skeptical that I'm going to be able to read 500 pages of this 900-page book in one day? Yes, I'm extremely skeptical about that. The next book that I'm going to be reading for the hardest reading challenge you will ever do is the Axeman's Carnival. And this was for the prompt to read a new release in the month that it was released. So this was released in August, and so I need to read it before August is over for it to count for this challenge. And I did look it up. This book was actually published a couple of years ago, but my understanding is I think this is the first time it was published in English. All I know is that on this publisher's website, it was a new release for this month. I'm not going to follow the trail further than that to figure it out. And then finally, I am also hosting a Barnacle Buddy read on August 31st. Pretty sure I've messed up that date every single time that I've mentioned it. But it's basically the last Saturday in August. From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., I will be live streaming and doing reading sprints. And this is for the year of your birth read-along. And we will be spending the day reading one book, or for some people, multiple books that were published during the year that you were born. So the book that I will be reading is A Month in the Country. And this is a book I've wanted to read for a very long time. And so I was super excited to see that it was published in the year I was born. It's a short book, so it stands a pretty decent chance of getting finished that day if I keep my head down and read during those sprints. But it should be a good time. I do have a little game that I hope we'll be able to play using our books, so that should make it extra fun and distracting. So feel free to come and join me for that. And that's everything. So let's review real quickly, because there's a lot going on here. So basically, I am currently reading these 2 books and should finish them before the month is over. I have 1 chapter left to read in The Mysteries of Paris. I am also listening to a song a day and reading a page a day out of Year of Wonder. And then in addition to that, I need to get to the book club pick Neverwhere in the next couple of days. And I also need to read Axeman's Carnival before the month is over. And then for my read along, I'm going to do that during a reading sprint. And then at least 500 pages of this would be helpful so that I could check off another box on the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. So this is my TBR for the next week. Is anyone else doubting that this is going to happen? Subscribe if you'd like to see how I do, so you can get notified when I post my video next week, and wrap this week and this month up and see how that went. I'll be watching too. All right, let me know what you're reading this week and how your month has been going so far, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.